This video is intended to describe a light cuff set named Terra Nueva, aka New Earth. Joining me today will be my whimsical stick figure chakra map for chakra stimulation Q reference. And also, describing one is describing the other in complete idyllic nature because they are as identical as absolute possible for maximum vibrational compound interest in both the wielding of the right and left wrist for very compatible cross-transfer energy for exactly this purpose, which also means they are not dependent on wrist polarity, for they go perfectly on either wrist because they're as identical as absolute possible to generate a closed-loop circuit between the 2 points of the wrists. I feel like that disclaimer is well notarized now, so I'll go ahead and continue with the matrix. So, very important aspect I will reiterate is that, of course, describing the intricacies starting down here, I'll start up with, we'll be describing this guy right here as its mate is identical as absolute possible. I just want that really well specified before I continue further in this dissertation. So I'll go ahead and start from the ground up towards a power pack seen right here, barely in the camera, that's very well concealed because it's very well hidden, but has a great amount of complexity to it. So obviously I'll have to describe it more freehand than obvious demonstration purposes in one shot. At the very foundational base of both of these cuffs, if I can maybe perhaps reveal a little bit for dissertation's sake, would be the base power packs consisting of clear quartz and selenite as the central core of this particular power pack, with a blade band of clear quartz, red jasper, clear quartz, and seraphonite. Also attached to that would be moldavite, Libyan gold tektite, and fulgurite with black kyanite and blue kyanite. Okay, so that of course would be the entirety of the complexity at the foundation. Now the description for each of these components to be very comprehensive in this notarization. So the core clear quartz down at the very bottom, just like the main blade face, that is the flower of life clear quartz seen right here, or I guess you could say the cuff foundation instead of a blade face, would be that of clear quartz, which works as a great neutral ambient energy that's very much in attunement to the consciousness energy of the wielder, who is the recipient, which essentially puts it in the sphere of consciousness-assisted technology in working in tandem with very overt complex subroutines with the natural spiritual energy of the recipient, that aka being the broadcasting of sorcery. It puts the source in sorcery, I guess you could say. So that, of course, will be the clear quartz foundation. Then the selenite adhered to the clear quartz that's literally concealed and is impossible virtually to see it at this point. The selenite plays a very critical role in virtually, actually take it back, all light tech is very contingent on selenite's employment. Selenite by itself, that once again is attached to the clear quartz point underneath here, is a very fantastic 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra stimulant all the way back to one's Godhead, which basically means it works as a very powerful two-way conscious self-perception to one's highest self in real time and clears off all the dross or the debris that interfere with one's connection to creation as a foundation, which by itself is quite fantastic and obviously a prolific goal of spirituals to make liberation of spirituality a tangibility. So with that high frequency induction alignment of the higher chakras in alignment with conscious self also has a very powerful master healer capacity to burn off gross imperfections that be stagnancy stored in the field from top to bottom. Even though it's definitely not a grounding stone, but it plays a critical role in this entire construct for exactly this reason. I oftentimes save for last in these dissertations, but like I said, I'm doing a top-up build dissertation. So the selenite also, besides it being a massive master frequency alignment to one's highest self, which by itself is its own merit of excellence in metaphysical application, it also takes this entire frequency pitch of all these crystals yet to be mentioned, the entire closed loop circuit seen right here. It can take this entire frequency pitch and purify all of these crystals continuously. It can intensify or amplify, and perhaps most importantly, in my opinion, it also brings equilibrium and harmony to the entire frequency pitch. So you have the triumphant trifecta of the purification for the entire platform yet to be mentioned, the amplification, intensification, and the equilibrium and harmonization of the entire output. That critical trinity of course, is what I consider to be a foundation of a successful spiritual that is my life's work. And also, like I mentioned, a very powerful two-way connection to one's highest truth in real time, clearing off the debris as a foundation. So that is a quintessential staple in my life's work for distinctly this reason for maximum efficiency. So around that selenite and clear quartz power pack seen under here, actually not even seen under here, is also a particular blade band ignition sequence of a closed loop circuit with beads making ignition output. Starting off with clear quartz to be the neutral accelerant of the energy, going into red jasper, that is a quintessential stabilizer of the root chakra in the mineral kingdom, which is very, very practical, and for all purposes of life, to have a very stable root chakra is obviously very beneficial for stabilizing the base of the etheric scaffolding that is the chakra column. In the most stable, perpetual mineral I utilize in the mineral kingdom for exactly this root chakra stimulation, that is obviously very helpful, not to mention for the endeavors of the recipient. Then clear quartz to be another neutral accelerant into seraphinite beads. Seraphinite is an incredible green ray stone that obviously has nice heart chakra clearing capacity of that of the seraphic realm, the seraphim archangels, but also makes for a full light body stimulant that activates the entire chakra column in unison, and is one of the most powerful master healers I employ quite religiously for this versatile practical purpose. To have a full unified stimulation of the light body and to rapidly but gently, most importantly, dismantle any stored habitual patterns of dis-ease from the chakra centers. So having that foundation of stabilizing the healing capacity as the very bottom blade band is a very powerful ensurement of stabilizing that healing trajectory at the base level, which is, of course, ideally a very transferable modality for the recipient willing those for those under her jurisdiction of service, which is the big goal here. So that'd be the blade band that is literally not seen anymore. And then, of course, using that particular blade band power pack as the main heart of the engine with many different high frequency components in that section down there will be described freehand as well. So underneath there is also fulgurite, which is petrified lightning. Petrified lightning is literally lightning that strikes sand that has the mimicking power of the force of lightning caught in crystalline resonance. So that has very powerful, full light body, lightning fast activation capacity, as well as utilized by First Nation shamans, particularly, at least in notoriety's sake, notarization of magical utilization of the spirit tool, to intensify their prayers back to Creator. So it also can serve as a dramatic lightning fast intensification of intentions and energy, not to mention taking the lightning force through this entire subroutine adds a lot of high frequency intensity to what is considered to be a very well stabilized platform, which will make sense momentarily once I make my way up the scaffolding. But the aspect also is the light body activation of fulgurite is very, very intensive and powerful for the entire chakra column with lightning force, quite literally in proper doses with plenty of transmutation and stabilization is very beneficial for the endeavors of a practitioner, if you would, to intensify their work into tangibility. Then underneath there as well is moldavite, which is a very legendary green ray stone, quite in vogue these days for being very famous and infamous for its magical powers. Moldavite is a very, very powerful green ray, mysterious tektite, which is considered to be perhaps a meteorite glass impact sand that is very, very powerful for assimilating the heart chakra to the highest configuration connection to creation, with unsurpassed hurricane force of alignment with one's dharmic blueprint. So moldavite is the quintessential dharmic accelerant, in my opinion, of dramatically aligning one's heart with one's true self matrix to have that manifest internally, to manifest externally as one's life path of fulfillment is, of course, brought into view through synchronicities, magic, and inner revelations simultaneously. So moldavite is very, very powerful stuff, and by itself I can consider to be rather volatile on the system without proper transmutation setups and stabilizations to mitigate the timeline whiplash, but a little dose of cosmic acceleration is definitely due for these set. Then its cousin, found underneath here as well, would be Libyan gold tektite. It's a golden cousin, vibration speaking, to moldavite that was utilized by the pharaohs of old, that has a very powerful third and sacrum, basically a second and third chakra stimulation of that of fire, with the unsurpassed, in my opinion, golden ray of illumination that activates the entire auric field, which can be considered a fire energy with storm overtones of full light body activation that was literally utilized by the pharaohs of old to be carved into scarab beetles, to be adhered into their finery breastplates that were that of the, obviously indicative of the office of the Magi God Kings of old, of the pharaoh caste, which is pretty significant. So it definitely carries that very powerful manifestation, dharmic acceleration to one's connection to creation, and a very powerful gold ray of illumination that is very powerful for many applicable purposes, such as confidence in one's gifts and who they are, and maximum service to creation is the prerogative with that particular placement. To have the confidence to be insured to make a substantial impact of their chosen dharma or their highest path manifest in reality, particularly in service to creation. Who this cuff set is going to is someone who's very devoted to her path of service, which is why this is a tremendous honor, of course. So that'd be the fulgurite, the moldavite, and the Libyan gold tektite, all described in the subroutine that is now completely concealed, as well as the kyanites of black and blue will be described right now. So kyanite is a staple in light tech as well, to be a very powerful rapid transfer energy agent through the entire auric field. Black kyanite is an absolute staple for any light tech. It doesn't matter what variety, because this critical feature is very important. Black kyanite rapidly enriches energy through the root chakra, into the earth stars, into the earth for reprocessing, quicker than anything else in the mineral kingdom just about, which also means it has a very powerful surge protector capacity to ensure the excess yield energy is always getting into Mother Earth for reprocessing, which is of course of the essence for tangibility of magic, and not to mention the comfort of the wielder and also those under her jurisdiction is prerogative with black kyanite. It's very, very critical. I can't overemphasize how important black kyanite is for rapidly bridging all the excess energy into the earth for perpetual energetic dialysis and that of transmutation of energy at the most rapid capacity also. And of course, with all these exotic frequencies mentioned and yet to be mentioned, it also makes a very powerful continuous auto-regulating bridge point into earth to ensure the excess energy is getting to the earth as quick as possible for the highest good of the recipient. Blue kyanite, found on the other side of this power pack down here, also has a very rapid, powerful third eye stimulation that is also a great aid in telepathic communication, which is very practical for the recipient's vocation, as well as neuropathway alignment of the third eye to unobstruct the debris that would be the left and right hemisphere brains that cause cross friction that would be interfering with the awakened third eye in that capacity. And in a practical regard too, with kyanite's so rapid at bridging energy between two disparate parties that energy links are very rapidly established through that rapid transfer, so it can be considered a great stone of diplomacy to find middle ground with one person and the other person making a unified field cohesiveness without causing drain. I know it gets quite meta, but that is it, the concept of kyanite being utilized in a nutshell. Which also works as another layer of etheric Teflon to ensure the regulation frequency of the insulated field when in play is ensured to the highest optimum, so that any stagnant energies would have a very difficult time stagnating and sticking to a field under the endurance of such rapid transfer energy. Fun facts. Okay, so that would be a comprehensive blind discussion of exactly the power pack seen at the very, very base of these guys. So between the base of this power pack and the base of the clear quartz foundation of both of these cuffs, there also is honeycomb that actually comes from my neighbor bees that were once upon a time back over here on this section of the property. I live in the back of my yard in the forest. That were my good friends that, of course, I got some of their honeycomb. And so that honeycomb, handcrafted organically by bees in Mount Shasta to add a little flair, also has basically it is installed upon the power pack, the top side of this guy that goes directly into the base of this guy, which means that organic bee frequency energy is well wedged so that perhaps the possibility of its integrity being compromised from wearing and all the things that happen when wielding devices, is going to be well ensured to be safe for the entirety of this life use purpose of these constructs, because it's very, very well wedged between this guy, the power pack I've been mentioning, and the foundation base. So the B frequency is quite the amazing phenomenon of creation, because obviously those wonders of creation, the Bs, build everything in perfect sacred geometric patterns. And fun fact about them is that scientifically, their power to weight ratio of their wing production of power and their weight should technically be infeasible, but the vibration they emanate, that generates lift. So that frequency is that of levity. So having that slight anti-gravity harmonization pitch frequency adhered to these could of course serve as an agent of levity in all aspects of even the psychological aspects, mental, emotional, body, spiritual, you get it. The B energy is well imprinted in these constructs at a consistent, organic, crafted, tangible way, which is really cool stuff. Because to kind of, I guess, wrap up my little digression about levity, is that in theory, that's the kind of frequency was previously leveraged to make the megalithic structures of the pyramids, Stonehenge perhaps, were all contingent on exactly the proper leveraging of the frequencies bees create. Hence, bees were quite the rave in ancient Egypt, and honey is famously found to have been unspoiled from pharaohic tombs under archaeological excavations for that reason. So bees were the knees. It was the bee's knees, quite simply. So that's, of course, enough of a dissertation digression about the employment of honeycomb between these wrist mount devices. That plays great significance. Okay, so I'll be going ahead now and getting into the blade band ignition sequences. So at the very foundation of these two other blade bands right here plays a critical role, something I refer to as the transmutation ratio. The transmutation ratio is a staple in all light tech for many distinct purposes, which I'll get into right now. But starting off in the ratio would be consisting of hematite, an iron-based mineral that is very powerful for taking all stray radial energies and firmly grounding it through the root chakra into the earth stars, and most importantly into the earth for reprocessing at a very, very powerful dynamic way. So of course, hematite excels at taking excess frequency energies and firmly grounding through the root into the earth, which of course can be considered part of the transmutation of negativity into positivity in conjunction with smoky quartz, with the same stimulation pathway to encourage the excess grounding of energy, to ensure the contact patch is grounding all the excess energy, like composting if you would, through the root, into the earth stars, into the earth meridian matrix for reprocessing. The criticality of this dissertation is literally bar none, I consider my life's work, for A, the tangibility of making magic real, B, the consistent background frequency of turning negativity and positivity by working with Mother Earth in capacity to rapidly discharge any stored negativity internally or externally, particularly in the practitioners working with those under her jurisdiction, into the earth for reprocessing. So the triple-fold importance of the transmutation ratio is an absolute staple foundation in virtually all light tech as well, for this distinct purpose. Then, to make this a slightly exotic variety of the typical tried and true transmutation ratio would be the employment of iron pyrite. Iron pyrite is a more masculine yang iron-based metal cousin to hematite, which can be considered quite androgynous for the yin-yang positive-negative polarities. That is very effective also for encouraging direction of energy into tangibility by lovely stimulation of the third chakra, the solar plexus, to actually direct excess frequency current into the tangibility range, which is also the prerogative of making magic real in this rendition as well. So that would be, once again, hematite, smoky quartz, and iron pyrite to make for a very powerful foundation of all the excess energy of this entire device to A, firmly ground all the excess energy into the earth for tangibility's sake of the magic broadcast. B, work as a good subroutine to encourage energetic dialysis of transmutation by a constant rate into the earth so that stagnant, difficult, discoherent energies have a very difficult time staying in this kind of perpetual discharge, constant reprocessing. So that's why those guys are rather always important to be very precise and very comprehensive on their functional critical role. Then, now I'll be getting into the Terra Nueva blade band, which is the whole reason for the season of these cuffs, only about 20 minutes later, after many, of course, build up. So this platform right here is actually been quite the renaissance in development of my life's work right now, because it's quite effectively the best attempt in vibrational engineering to generate the new Earth portal for a very distinct intentional purpose. Starting off with moss green agate seen right here, which is the quintessential terrestrial stabilization of the green ray physical heart chakra, which is very, very versatile in its practical, stable utilization. That being of water elemental energy, obviously green ray connotation, heart chakra stabilization, which makes this a great foundation for the entirety of the New Earth Portal Terra Nueva platform to serve as the tangible heart transference in the chakra column. And so by itself, it's actually quite the amazing underrated crystalline ally to work as the most impeccable stabilization of the heart chakra, which governs both our physical circulation and metaphysical circulation simultaneously. And moss green agate has such a stabilizing pattern that it works to very effectively, like many other stones in Mineral Kingdom, to effectively anchor the factory blueprint settings before imprintations or ancestral DNA corruption affects the heart chakra to the highest capacity. And so that stability plays a critical role as the tangible scaffolding of the New Earth portal for that purpose. Then on the ignition sequence is rutilated quartz, which works as a tremendous accelerant of this entire primary blade band of the New Earth portal, to basically have clear quartz as a neutral accelerant of the energy, with rutile, which is bands of titanium rutile inside the structure, works as a massive supercharger of energy. So when you dramatically intensify the ignition sequence of stabilized heart chakra dramatically into here, it actually makes a dramatic intensification of heart chakra stabilization. That's pretty spectacular, obviously, as a foundation. Then the moss green agate goes right here to clear quartz to be an absolute clear neutral subcapacitator between the energies, which of course puts it into the consciousness sphere of the reception of the impulses of magic of the recipient, which is a nice little feature, a very reactive energy pattern, a programmability of clear quartz. Then, so also I guess I'll describe it this way. So you have the rutilated quartz, the moss green agate, the clear quartz, the moss green agate once again, then staggered with the rutilated quartz in seen right here, which both look like gold ray stones, is actually a very, very important component that is contingent for the functionality of the New Earth portal. This right here is something called golden healer quartz. Golden healer quartz is an impeccable gold white light high heart source alignment frequency, which puts the resonant attunement of that of the heart of creation. Obviously, in a metaphysical application, that's pretty irreplaceable for any vibrational engineering endeavors. So, having the direct source attunement frequency of gold white light heart of creation that literally puts the source in sorcery is obviously self-evidently advantageous. But here's the big kicker. By having the gold white light source energy in the same ignition sequence with the stabilization of the physical terrestrial heart, in theory, makes for a very stable transference of high source energy into the physical heart as literally a new Earth portal. That is the very big idea right there of what is considered to be called the Terra Nueva platform thus far, that have had now, thank goodness, many renditions in operational status and now into distribution. So that's a very fun fact. That is, of course, the whole concept of these guys as kind of a pre-summary would be that of a very exotic yield of the New Earth portal emanation to transfer direct higher frequency source energy into the physicality of the being, of course, through the green. I'll put these a little closer, for this really is quite important to get quite well notarized to my satisfaction. With this whimsical stick figure chakra map with this guy side by side. Having the stabilization of the physical heart with the green ray in tandem with gold white light source energy is quintessentially, in theory, the transference of that source energy into physicality that, of course, grounds into the tangible range of reality, making a new Earth portal in a wrist configuration wearable platform, which has been proven to be quite helpful for ones in order distribution. I'll go ahead and leave it at that for now and continue what's irrelevant here. So at the very foundation of both of these cuffs, I'll go ahead and bring this guy over for this guy right here, would be found the clear quartz flower of life embossed atop of the clear quartz platform. So the flower of life is what I consider the king and queen, if you would, of the sacred geometric symbols of creation. Literally, it is the building blocks of all that is, as far as we can tell, for what that's worth. So having that resonant touch attunement of the flower of life seen right here under high exaggeration as well as high fortification around it is intrinsically quite powerful. Hence, if you look at different hieroglyphs or megalithic structures, when they show beings of the ancient ones wearing wrist-mounted devices actually look like the flower of life. Fun fact, it's kind of a fun little homage to that, which I need to, of course, actually text the recipient about that little fun fact. I'm not sure if I did so or not. But anyhow, that's another whimsical digression. But what's important here, of course, is having the fundamental blueprints of the flower of life being the foundation is inherently a very powerful intrinsic absolute truth of creation in a mathematical sense, which is pretty spectacular. And so, last but not least, would be the employment of this blue ray spiral seen like so, from the epicenter starting right here and expanding outwards like this. There we go. That's a whole spiral. So at the request of the recipient, the spiral was incorporated for a very important personal reason. That will, of course, I will omit to consolidate video time. But the big point is that the very apex top of these guys, both of them, identically as possible, both have a very powerful blue ray highest truth capacity in a spiral format to encourage very high, conscious, clear perception. So starting off with that would be aquamarine right here, which is a quintessential cardinal water energy stimulant of 4th and 5th chakra stimulation. That actually is a cousin to emerald. So it's quite a famous precious stone and is considered the cardinal stone of the ocean by many sailors utilized in metaphysical old times. Go ahead and I'll get relevant. So the aspect of the 4th and 5th stimulation, virtually unrivaled in the mineral kingdom, is a very powerful speaking from the heart capacity, from the 4th chakra stimulation to bring clarity in communication to the 5th chakra, which is the expression capacity, either internally or externally, the governance of the also. Fun fact too. So naturally, since the body, of course, has everything doubled, as goes from the legs, goes up to here to the shoulders. Also, the 5th chakra of the neck literally is the bottleneck of energy through the entire chakra column of the human avatar. So in that capacity, having another further fortification of the 5th chakra for all the high frequency energy to run in perpetual balance, this is a very important pressure valve. So this also serves as a tremendous agent to promote the stabilization and stimulation of the 4th and 5th chakra in the ideal configuration, which is very, very helpful for a counselor, which is, in a nutshell, what the recipient does for a vocation in service to creation, which I'm just going to keep on streamlining, keep on going. Enough digressions. Clear quartz to work as a neutral accelerant of the energy of the spiral, going into the lovely legendary lapis lazuli, the lovely blue stone that is quite literally a favorite of millions for thousands of years for a very good reason. So the aspect of lapis lazuli as a ancient Egyptian mystery school tool, as well as literally a world famous beautiful blue stone, is a very powerful wind elemental 5th and 6th chakra stimulant, that of highest truth. So the application legend is quite vast in the magic associated with lapis lazuli, but the big aspect why this is quite relevant in this critical junction right here at the apex of these devices is to ensure that the sovereign aspect of one's truth, either be it past lives for themselves or just having the analytical capacity to help with diagnostics of those under her jurisdiction, is very, very obvious to the conscious self. Then, of course, the expression that would be very helpful in a teaching position could be very well employed from a sovereign highest truth without any interference of the powers that be of living a life as a human, I guess you could say, to keep it simple, would be very highlighted in that capacity of one's highest absolute spiritual truth from that sovereign vantage point. So, in summary, these guys working together, aquamarine, clear quartz, and lapis, make for a very powerful linkage of the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th chakras, basically in that regard, because of course it stimulates the aspect of these so powerfully that the highest truth capacity would be very effective in the heart-mind coherence as well, which of course is another tremendous goal, in my opinion, in spiritual endeavors of the alchemical crucible, is to ensure that the heart-mind coherence is in a very impeccable optimum state, so that one's quantum knowledge capacity is accessible to the conscious self, which is considered to be like sorcery in that regard. So I believe that would actually be all the components completely mentioned in great detail. So in summary, also, before I continue further, these leather cuffs, before this video was performed, and this was of course installed yesterday, they have been saturated with essential oils of many different varieties to be a very powerful way to have aromatherapy stimulation, as well as I guess I'll just say it, I was going to prevent my Christianese as much as possible, but I'm just going to go ahead and be quite concise on the subject. But also, the oil being applied to this structure is the densest viscosity of liquid that, of course, can hold a vibrational print that can be stained into the leather to hold a current. Once these were installed, they, of course, were snapped like this yesterday to complete the circuit to energetically charge even the oil that's now been stained and saturated in the leather cuffs. There we have it. I wasn't playing on that little dissertation, but now I'm being quite comprehensive on the process, which has manifold benefits, obviously, not to mention they, on a terrestrial level, they smell delicious now because they have a good blend of essential oils that have basically developed to be catering to the recipient's vocation. So they smell delicious now too, on top of everything else, which is nice. And so, as a summary, these are quite complex little wrist mount devices that have a great versatility range, developed to be in service to the recipient, who is now in service to creation in a pretty amazing, beautiful way. Actually, always has been. I kind of misspoke there at the end because now I'm just rambling, because now I am doing my best to consolidate for a comprehensive rundown. So, you have the extreme complexities of these very, very substantially complex powerhouse at the very bottom, with the high grounding capacity, ground all the energy, as well as principally, actually, would be the New Earth portal, stabilizing the source energy into the physical heart, making the magic real. And of course, this transmutation is working as a great contingency to take all the excess energy and firmly, most importantly, ground it into the earth for tangibility and transmutation to make the magic real, is the prerogative here. With one's highest truth focus on high overture and literally a spiral, with the flower of life being the main, absolute main heart of these constructs, seen right here, to serve as the very powerful platform of resonance with the conscious self of one's spiritual energy. And that would be it. Okay, well, 1,000 blessings, and this would be the comprehensive video of the Terra Nueva power plant set on cuffs. And I pray that everybody has a very beautiful New Earth portal day.